Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, these are 050 notes, graphing Quadratics Vertex form. Your goal here is to sketch the graph of each function. So your objective is you'll be able to graph a quadratic equation in vertex form onto a graph. Alright, here we go. Here's number one. So it says y equals negative parentheses x plus 3 squared minus 2. So we're going to go over how to do this by hand first before we do things onto a calculator. The first thing we need to do is find the vertex. To find the vertex, or that point where the slope drastically changes, going from positive to negative or negative to positive. When it's in vertex form, all we got to do is the opposite sign of the number that's given here on the inside of the parentheses. So it says x plus 3. So the x value is the opposite. What's the opposite of plus 3? Well, that's negative 3. Then the y value of the vertex is always going to be the number that's here on the outside, that negative 2. So what we got to do, we plot a point at negative 3, 2. So we have 3 to the left of the origin. The origin is located right here. 3 to the left and then 2 down. That blue dot is our vertex. That's where it's going to be a change. Now we know that this is a negative, so we know our u is going to look something like that. When it's a positive in the front of that parentheses, our parabola is going to look something like this, where the arrows are going up. So how far do we know which way to go? Well, we can make ourselves a little t-table to figure out exactly the width of the u is going to be. And what we could do one number to the right, or 2 numbers to the right, or you could also go 2 numbers to the left. So I make mine a little xy t-table here. I already know negative 3 and negative 2 is one of them. But let's try putting in negative 2. Let's find out what that y value is. So I put negative 2 in for x. So negative 2 plus 3 gets us positive 1. 1 squared is 1. Negative 1 times positive 1 gets us negative 1. And then negative 1 minus 2 gets us negative 3. So when x is negative 2, y is negative 3. So we go x is negative 2, 1, 2. Then we go down 3. So that's our next point. Let's try putting in negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 gets us 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And negative 4 minus 2 gets us minus 6. So it's negative 1 minus 6. At that point. Now with the vertex, that's always going to be like the middle of our picture. So if we go 2 to the right, it's probably best to go 2 to the left. So we have negative 4. I plug in negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 gets us negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Positive 1 times negative 1 gets us negative 1. And negative 1 minus 2 gets us negative 3. So negative 4, negative 3. And we graph that point. 4 to the left, 3 down. Then the last point I'm going to check is going to be negative 5. So I'm just going one more number to the left of the x-axis here. So negative 5 plus 3 gets us negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And negative 4 minus 2 gets us negative 6. You could obviously put these numbers in on a calculator to get the outputs. Your answers on the calculator, your outputs are your y. So negative 5, negative 6. Plot a point right there. We now connect them, try to make a U shape to the best of your ability. Put little arrows on the end. When you graph 5 points, that's probably the most accurate, and that's what I'm going to ask of you on a test, if you have to graph the coordinates. And of course, if it's multiple choice, you just have to identify which graph it is. Alright, so let's do another one. Let's say we got y equals x minus 2 squared minus 1. So first thing I want to do is find my vertex. And to find the vertex, my x value is always the opposite number that's inside the parentheses. So we have x minus 2. So my vertex is the opposite of negative 2, which is positive 2. The y value of the vertex is always going to be here on the outside, so that's negative 1. So my vertex is 2 to the right, 1 down. So we plot a point right there. Now I pick 2 numbers to the right of that vertex, so since my vertex at positive 2, I'm going to do 3 and 4. I'm going to try those points. I'm also going to try the 2 points to the left, 1 and 0. So those are the 4 numbers I'm going to plug in to our given equation. And when we plug it in and we get an answer in the calculator, we're going to put that answer in for that y spot. So I'm going to put 3 in for x. 3 minus 2 gets us 1. 1 squared is positive 1. And positive 1 minus 1 gets us 0. So when x is 3, our y is 0. So we plot a point there. Next I'm going to plot in 4 into this. I'll write it out. So you have y equals 4 minus 2 squared minus 1. Well, 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. And 4 minus 1 gets us 3. So when x is 4, y is 3. So when x is 4, y is 3. Plot it down up there. We're then going to now plug in 1. So we do 1 minus 2 squared minus 1. Well, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. And positive 1 minus 1 gets us 0. So when x is 1, y is 0. So we plot that point, 1, 0. 1 to the right, 0 up, down. Last but not least, we put the 0 in for the equation. So it'll be 0 minus 2 gets us negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. So 0, 3. As you can see, it's kind of like a little reflection. So if once you know your vertex point, if you just do 2 numbers to the right, the other 2 numbers on the other side, it's going to be a reflection of it. And the more practice you get, you'll understand what I mean by the reflection. Alright, let's do another one. So you can see you also have multiple choice that you could do. Let's do one where you're just straight up graphing. One more of those. So we got y equals 2 times x plus 1 squared plus 3. To find the vertex, we know it's the number, the opposite that's in the parentheses. So if positive 1's in the parentheses, the vertex is at negative 1. And then the height always comes here at the end when it's in vertex form. So you have a positive 3. So your vertex is negative 1, positive 3. So that's either the bottom of your curve or the height, the top of your curve. Since this is a positive 2, I know it's going to be going up. So it's a U shape. Now the 2 numbers to the right of negative 1 are 0 and 1. So I'm going to try the values of 0 and 1. And the 2 numbers to the left of negative 1 are negative 2 and negative 3. So I'm also going to do negative 2 and negative 3. So when I plug in 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 plus 3 gets us 5. So our output is 5. When I put 1 in there, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So we have 111. So 1 to the right, 11 up. Then we got to put in negative 2. So negative 2 plus 1 gets us negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. So negative 2, 5. And then we're going to plug in negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 gets you 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So you have negative 3, 11. All right. So let's go over one with a multiple. Oh, actually, better yet, let's go over one with a fraction. So we have a y equals negative a half, and then x plus 2 squared plus 1. So start with the fraction. It's going to make the u a little bit wider, a little bit thicker. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So we still do our same setup, but find our vertex. So we know inside the parentheses that's a plus 2, so the opposite's negative 2. The height is positive 1, so we put a positive 1 there. So we got negative 2, positive 1. We plot that vertex in blue. Now the two numbers to the right of negative 2 are negative 1 and 0. So I write negative 1 and 0. And the two numbers to the left are negative 3 and negative 4. So I do negative 3 and negative 4. We're going to plug each one of them in. Negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. Positive 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative a half is negative a half. And negative a half plus 1 gets you a half. So it's okay to have fractions or decimals. 1/2 is the same thing as 0.5. So when x is negative 1, y is a half. So negative 1, a half. We put a dot there. Now we're going to plug in 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative a half is negative 2. And negative 2 plus 1 gets you negative 1. So we have 0, negative 1. So we put a dot there. Now with that reflection, we can connect those 3 points, because we know the vertex is the middle. We actually could say, hey, this is a reflection. When it was negative 1, it was a half. So at negative 3, it's also going to be a half. So it's kind of like doing the opposite, a reflection. 0 is at negative 1. So negative 4, it's going to be a negative 1. And you can see that this u is a little bit wider than the u's that we did in the past. So at negative 3, it's a half. And at negative 4, it's at negative 1. So when it's a half or a fraction, the u gets thicker. When a number is in front of the parentheses is greater than 1, the u gets a little skinnier. Let's see a multiple choice. See how that is laid out. So when we're working with multiple choice, I would first do the vertex, find the vertex. So in this case, the vertex will be positive 2, because that's the opposite of negative 2, and then negative 3. So I know that's my vertex, so I look at my choices of A, B, C, and D. 2 to the right, 3 down. Well, that's not option A, because option A says the vertex is at 2, 2. Since it says that the vertex is at 2, 2, I know A is incorrect. Looking at option C, it says 2 to the left, 2 up. That's negative 2, 2. That's not the correct vertex, so we know C is no good also. We look at B, 2 to the right, 3 down. So that looks like it's a good vertex right there. And looking at D, 2 to the right, 11 down. So 2 to the right, 11 down. As you could see, the only one with the correct vertex is option B. So hopefully you get that lucky too, where it's just, all you have to do is check the vertex. If there's multiple numbers or multiple options where it's the correct vertex, then that means you just have to check another point. Meaning you could check 1. When you put 1 in, 1 minus 2 gets you negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 3 gets you minus 4. So our answer has to have also the coordinate 1, negative 4. 1, negative 4. Which it does. whereas the other ones probably wouldn't. If they had two numbers that are correct, then you just try another coordinate. You just keep on adding coordinates in until you get your correct answer. Alright. Let's do one more with number 9, as far as the multiple choice. And then we'll be done. So we first find the vertex. Well, the opposite of -1 is +1. And then on the outside, it's also +1. So our vertex is 1, 1. This one says 2, 2. So you know option A does not work out. Option C, 1, 1. Well, that's not the case because the vertex for this guy is out 4, -2. So we know C is out. B is 1, 1. So we're looking good there. And D is not. That's -3, 4. So once again, based on our multiple choice, the only one that had the correct vertex was option B. So that's why our answer is option B. Alright, ladies and gents. If you have any questions, feel free to come to Extra Help or email me. I'll be happy to help you out. Classwork is 050 CW1, graph and quadratics via vertex form. And your homework, that's 050 HW1, graph and quads, vertex form. So just find those Google Forms in your Google Classroom. All right, have yourself a good night.